Parker, seen here, had been faking her pregnancy for 10 months.
Around 30 years, David and Louise subjected their children to various amount of torture and abuse.
He allegedly found religion through books and photos that his father sent him. Jeffrey declared himself a born-again Christian, and
This young woman right here is Taylor Parker, and today she was found guilty of capital murder. Parker, seen here, had been faking her pregnancy for 10 months. Desperate and backed into a corner, Parker, on October 9th of 2020, went to one of her good friend Reagan Hancock's home and cut her 34-week-old baby out of her stomach. Reagan desperately fought off her attacker, but unfortunately she succumbed to her injuries, and Parker left the scene with the infant in her lap and got pulled over by police. The jury deliberated for less than an hour, and they found Taylor Parker guilty of capital murder. She will face sentencing on October 12th, and we will keep you updated. She is facing life in prison or the death penalty.
This is the Turpin family. Parented by David and Louise, they had 13 children, 10 daughters, and 3 sons. For around 30 years, David and Louise subjected their children to various amount of torture and abuse. They were severely malnourished due to being fed only once a day. They were only allowed to bathe once a year and were restricted from going to the bathroom, so they had to relieve themselves wherever they were in the house. The house was also filthy, covered in trash all across the floors. If you've seen Hoarders, it was like that. Louise Turpin had a pretty rough childhood. I think her mother sold her and her sisters to this wealthy man who would sexually abuse them. I don't know. But her parents were very strict in a way that she would rarely hang out with people, let alone date anyone. She met David when he was 24 and she was 16. They kept it a secret. One day, David came and picked her up from school, and they drove off and eloped while she was 16. And they went on to have 13 children. David, on the other hand, had a pretty good childhood. He became very successful in his career of engineering. He had a lot going for him until he met Louise. The children were homeschooled, so they barely left the house. The neighbors, if they ever did see them, said that they were extremely pale from never being outside. They were extremely skinny from being malnourished and being fed once a day. The eldest daughter, at 29, weighed 82 pounds. They were also chained into their beds at nighttime and sometimes during the day. One of the daughters actually said that they would throw them around the house, beat them in other ways. Every way you can imagine someone abusing their child, that's what they did. And then in January of 2018, one of their 17-year-old daughters left the house through a window at night, made a run for it, and called the police, telling them about what happened, saying that she was worried for her younger sisters and how they were chained up, saying how the house was immensely filthy. She couldn't even bear to breathe while being in the house, so the police were sent to their house for a wellness check. They went inside, saw everything. It was pretty evident that something was going on. So David and Louise were taken and arrested. All of the children immediately were sent to hospitals to address their malnutrition and give them antibiotics and everything. And the parents were both charged with multiple counts of torture, false imprisonment, child abuse, and cruelty to a dependent adult. They ended up pleading guilty and got sentenced 25 years in prison. A lot of the younger children were sent into foster care and sadly continued to be abused and victimized by the people who took care of them. But a lot of them have moved on from this and regained their independence, so yeah. In December of 2006, Ryan Waller is taken into questioning as a suspect for the murder of his girlfriend Heather. He has bruises all over his face, huge black eyes. In the interrogation, he's very lost. Has no idea what happened. They're asking him questions like, can you tell me what happened? And he's like, I don't know, man, I just want to go to sleep. Like, repeatedly saying, man just wants to go to sleep. They're trying to make him have a timeline out. He's saying Heather hit him in the face. No, this girl named Christina was there. No, Alicia was there. Then saying Richie and his dad broke in, shot him in the face, and shot Heather while she was sitting on the couch. And they were like, if they shot you in the face, you would be dead. So they didn't believe him. Overall, acting really strange. His story is all over the place. The police finally look closer into his wounds, and they realize man was actually shot in the face. You see an enter and exit wound. Immediately get him into the hospital. After having him in custody for 6 hours. While he's in the hospital, they start looking more into his story. Turns out Richie and his dad actually did break in. Not sure about why. I think they were kicked out by Ryan because Richie was hitting on Heather. I don't know. But they did break in. They did shoot Ryan in the face. And then they also shot Heather. But Ryan survived somehow. He continued to pace around the house, lost his memory of what happened. I mean, he just got shot in the face. Like, I don't blame him for being completely lost. He's thinking Heather is on the couch sleeping, so he doesn't call 911. And then this is on Christmas Day, so his father is calling him, like, where you at? So then they send the police to the house where they find Richie walking around and Heather dead on the couch. So that's why he was brought in as a suspect. It's just unbelievable that they just did not get him medical attention whatsoever. But after looking into Richie and his dad and what actually happened, Richie was convicted of murder, burglary, assault with a weapon, blah, 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 and sentenced to life in prison. His dad, on the other hand, had a whole other thing that happened I can't get into, but he did end up getting sentenced to life in prison. Like I said, Ryan survived, but he had to have part of his brain removed. They also had to remove his eyes because that's where he was shot, so he lost his sight. He then continued to suffer severe seizures because part of his brain was gone, and then I think he died in 2007 because of a seizure he had. I just can't believe they just completely ignored his severe bruising on his face. Like, I would show a photo, but it was like too much for TikTok to handle, I think. Absolutely ridiculous.
Jeffrey Dahmer served his prison sentence at the Columbia Correctional Institute in Portage, Wisconsin. He reportedly adjusted fairly well to prison life, and although he was initially kept away from the general population, Jeffrey eventually convinced authorities to allow him to integrate with the other inmates. He allegedly found religion through books and photos that his father sent him. Jeffrey declared himself a born-again Christian and was even granted permission to be baptized by a local pastor. Ironically enough, he was actually baptized on the same day that John Wayne Gacy was executed. On November 24th, 1994, Jeffrey reported in the early morning hours to his regularly scheduled work detail. He was assigned to work with 2 other convicted murderers, Christopher Scarver on the left and Jesse Anderson on the top. Once the 3 inmates were left alone by the guards to clean the prison shower, Christopher Scarver brutally beat both other men with a bar he had taken from the prison gym. He had apparently been hiding the bar in the leg of his trousers. I also found in a couple articles that the weapon was a broomstick, so I'm not exactly sure which is true. Only 20 minutes later, the guards discovered what had happened. Jeffrey Dahmer was found lying on the floor in a pool of his own blood, but still alive. After being rushed to the hospital, Jeffrey was pronounced dead from substantial head trauma only an hour later. Jesse Anderson also died a few days later due to his injuries. During his trial, Christopher Scarver said that God had told him to commit the murders. He also stated that Jeffrey used to taunt other inmates with prison food in an attempt to antagonize them. He would allegedly mold his food to resemble body parts and would use ketchup to mimic blood. He would also allegedly say things like, "I bite." The prison pastor also claimed that Jeffrey hung up a Cannibals Anonymous meeting sign in his cell, which really sounds like a born-again Christian to me. In 1996, Milwaukee businessman Joseph Silber raised over $400,000 to purchase the items that Dahmer had used for his victims and destroyed them in an effort to distance the city from the horror of what occurred. The money was used to compensate the families of Dahmer's victims.
Alright guys, many of you may already know about this, but a 20-month-old boy in Savannah, Georgia went missing last week, and police made a statement today that they do believe that Quentin Simon is deceased. Police have also announced that their prime suspect in the case is Quentin's mother, Leilani Simon. Now, in my opinion, this whole case is giving very Casey Anthony vibes, and I do believe that the mother had something to do with this. So let's go through a full timeline on what exactly happened. Quentin was living in a Savannah, Georgia home with his mother Leilani, his stepfather Danny, his 2 siblings, and his grandmother Billie Jo Howell and Tommy Howell, his grandfather, and these 2 owned the home. On Tuesday, October 4th, the children were picked up from their babysitter Diana, who lived right down the street from them. Diana stated that the children were there all day until they were picked up by Leilani and Danny around 5:30 p.m. The next day, on Wednesday, October 5th, Diana received a text message at 5:29 from Danny stating that she would not have to watch the children that day as Leilani was home and she was going to watch them. Now, Diana states that she did think this was a little odd at first, as she always watches the children Monday through Friday, even when Leilani is home. On that same day, around 6 a.m., Danny states that he did see Quentin inside of his pack-and-play before he left for work, and he left for work right at 6 a.m. At 9 a.m. on the same morning, Danny texts Diana and asks her if she has seen Quentin anywhere. Now, this really shocked Diana, and she immediately went over to their house to go help in the search of Quentin. Diana states that when she went over there, she asked them what was going on and if they needed any help looking for Quentin, but shockingly, both of the parents stated no and that they had already tried looking for him. Now, Diana then asked if they had called the police, and they shockingly said no, they had not called the police yet. So, although Quentin has allegedly been missing for several hours, Diana is the one that convinced the 2 parents to call the police and report him missing. Now, in my opinion, this part is the most shocking and questionable to me. As a mother myself, if my child was missing for even 10 minutes, I would want every single person in the entire neighborhood looking for her. So the fact that they denied any help in looking for their baby son is very odd, and let's not even get started on them not calling the police. When the police arrived that morning, Leilani told them that when she woke up, the door was open and Quentin was missing. She stated that Quentin did not know how to open doors, and he couldn't have done it, so someone must have come in and taken him. At some point on this morning, Diana actually made a point to call Billie Jo as well, as Billie Jo and Tommy were out of town. And shockingly, this call that Billie Jo received from Diana was the very first time that she was ever made aware that Quentin was missing. Billie Jo states that when she spoke with Leilani, Leilani told her that Quentin's father came to pick him up. However, police have ruled this out, stating that Quentin's father is not really involved in his life and he doesn't even live anywhere near there. And I'm running out of time, but please continue part 2. Billie Jo and Tommy returned to town and immediately started doing TV interviews regarding the disappearance of Quentin. Billie Jo has stated that she does not trust her daughter, even stating, quote, "I don't know if I can trust her or not, and she hasn't always done the right thing."
She's lied to us so many times, and I don't know, it's just bad to say, but she just likes to lie.
As of today, October 13th, police have made a statement that they do believe 20-month-old Quentin Simon is deceased. There has been absolutely no specifics released at this time, not even if they found a body or not. But they have stated that the mother, Leilani, is the prime suspect in the case right now. I have also seen several different things going around as far as this message from Billie Jo. So before I show this message, I do not know 100% if this is true or not. But I have seen several news stations that have stated that they did receive this information directly from Billie Jo as well. Billie Jo sent a message to someone saying Quentin has passed and he's in a landfill and my daughter done it. She has no memory of it. Now again, this has not been confirmed by police whatsoever, but I did think this was important to show you guys. I will obviously be keeping a very close eye on this case, so I will keep updating you guys on the more information that's released. And before I end this video, my heart is with the family of Quentin during this insanely terrible time.